Okay, let's dive in. Think about those tiny lights moving across the night sky. Satellites. They're up there right now, thousands of them, enabling so much of our modern world.
Absolutely. From streaming your favorite show to, guiding aircraft.
Exactly. So today we're digging into satellite communication. How does it all work?
And our mission here
Mm-hmm.
is really to pull out the key ideas so you get how these complex systems operate and maybe see their surprising impact on your everyday life.
Right. Let's start with the basics. How do these things even stay up there? Why don't they just, well, fall down?
Good question. It's this really elegant balance. You've got Earth's gravity pulling the satellite towards it.
Okay, makes sense.
But then you have the satellite's own forward motion, its velocity, which creates an effect often called centrifugal force, trying to fling it outward.
Like swinging a bucket of water around.
Kind of, yeah. When those two forces of gravity pulling in, inertia pushing out are perfectly balanced, it orbits. And here's the kicker. The actual mass of the satellite, it doesn't really matter for staying in orbit. It's all about the speed and the altitude.
Wait, really? So a tiny CubeSat and a huge communication satellite follow the same rules? That's counterintuitive.
It is. It's purely about that velocity matching the gravitational pull at that specific height. Pretty neat physics.
Okay, so they're balanced, but how do we control where they are and where they send signals? You can't just shoot them up randomly.
No, definitely not. That's where things like inclination come in.
Huh.
That's the angle of the orbit compared to the Earth's equator.
Okay.
And also elevation, that's the angle the signal makes hitting the Earth. These subtle adjustments define the satellite's footprint.
Its coverage area on the ground?
Exactly. That footprint determines who it can talk to, whether it's monitoring weather over the Atlantic or connecting a phone call across continents.
It's amazing how a slight tweak in angle changes everything. Now, you mentioned phone calls. Satellites do way more than just TV, right?
Oh, absolutely. Weather forecasting relies heavily on them for tracking storms, hurricanes, military intelligence, navigation like the GPS in your car.
Right. GPS. We almost take it for granted.
We do. But one of the really foundational and challenging early uses was global telephone calls. Imagine trying to connect London to Sydney back then.
Yeah, that sounds tricky.
Well, think about the distance. The signal goes from the ground, maybe 10,000 kilometers apart on Earth,
Okay.
up to a satellite, maybe 36,000 kilometers high, and then back down. That round trip could be nearly 72,000 kilometers.
72,000 kilometers. Wow. That must create some serious delay.
Huge delay. We call it latency. You'd literally hear a noticeable pause in the conversation. Very awkward for phone calls.
I can imagine. So that lag problem, it must have really pushed engineers, right, to find better ways.
Exactly right. That fundamental challenge was a massive driver for innovation. How do we shorten that path? How do we make communication feel instantaneous? It led directly to thinking about different orbits.
Okay. So these different neighborhoods in space you mentioned earlier, let's talk about those. What are the main types?
So there are basically three main orbits we talk about: GEO, LEO, and MEO.
GEO, LEO, MEO, got it.
GEO is geostationary Earth orbit. These are the really high ones, around 36,000 kilometers up. The cool thing is they orbit at the same speed the Earth rotates.
So from our perspective, they look like they're just hanging there, stationary.
Precisely, geostationary. And because they're so high and seem fixed, you only need 3 GEO satellites spaced out correctly to cover almost the entire planet.
That sounds efficient, but that's the orbit with the big delay, right? The 72,000 kilometer round trip.
That's the trade-off. Great coverage, but significant latency. Good for broadcasting TV where a half-second delay doesn't matter much, but not ideal for, say, fast-paced online gaming or video calls.
Okay, so that brings us to LEO, low Earth orbit. That's where things get really interesting now with stuff like Starlink.
Exactly. LEO satellites are much, much closer. We're talking 500 to maybe 1,500 kilometers up instead of 36,000.
Big difference. So the latency must be way lower.
Dramatically lower, down around maybe 10 milliseconds or so. It feels incredibly responsive, almost like a wired fiber connection.
Wow, 10 milliseconds. That's game-changing. But if they're so low, they must be moving really fast relative to the ground.
They are, zipping across the sky, which means any single LEO satellite is only visible from a point on the ground for like 10 minutes.
Only 10 minutes. So how do you get continuous connection?
You need a lot of them. A whole network or constellation. Starlink, for example, needs thousands. You hand off the signal from one satellite to the next as they fly over.
A constant juggling act.
Pretty much. And then there's MEO, medium Earth orbit, which is sort of a compromise between GEO and LEO. Different trade-offs again. It really highlights how engineers choose the orbit based on what the satellite needs to do.
Which leads us right into Starlink. It's probably the most talked about LEO system right now. Over 7,000 satellites launched already.
Yeah, the scale is incredible. Their goal is high-speed, low-latency internet pretty much anywhere, especially hitting those remote or underserved areas.
But how does it actually perform in the real world? Does it live up to the hype?
Well, studies are showing some interesting things. For instance, performance isn't always consistent. Rain, heavy precipitation.
Yeah.
That can definitely reduce your speed, your throughput. It's called signal attenuation. The rain basically absorbs or scatters the signal.
Okay, so weather can impact it. What else?
Throughput also seems to vary depending on the time of day. Often performs better at night.
Less network traffic, maybe.
That's the likely reason, yeah. Fewer people using it simultaneously.
And for the tech folks listening, you mentioned something really specific about TCP versus UDP connections. That sounds important.
Right, this is fascinating. TCP, that's the protocol your computer usually uses for things like web browsing, ensuring data arrives reliably and in order. Yeah. Well, TCP connections on Starlink seem more prone to low throughput, so slower speeds, compared to UBP, which is often used for streaming or gaming where speed matters more than perfect order.
Why would that be?
The thinking is it might relate to how the Starlink network itself works. Because satellites are constantly moving and handing off connections, there might be this internal rerouting happening very frequently, maybe every 15 seconds or so.
And TCP is sensitive to that kind of instability or reordering.
Can be, yeah. TCP expects a pretty stable path. This constant shuffling in a dynamic EO network can sometimes confuse it, leading to lower speeds than you might get with the less fussy UDP.
Yeah.
It shows how these new networks challenge old internet rules.
That's a really neat technical insight. It shows the complexity behind the scenes.
And connecting it all back, understanding these orbits, geo stability versus LEO speed and complexity and their limitations, like latency or rain fade. It really helps you appreciate the incredible engineering balancing act that makes our connected world possible.
Absolutely. From weather prediction to finally getting decent internet in remote places, it feels like satellite tech is evolving faster than ever. So, thinking ahead, what new doors does this expanding love of satellites open up for you? What's the next big thing communication from space might enable?